All right. Welcome to Gilky Way Galaxy production, the M and J Music Hour. M as in Michael, J as in, well, Jay Williams. I'm here with the wonderful Jay Williams, my co-host. Thanks for joining us, Jay.
Hello. How's it going?
It's going good. It's going good. Thanks to our digital media age, I'm here in San Jose, California, in the headquarters of Gilky Way Galaxy Productions.
Yeah, don't say digital age when I'm the one sitting here with an iPad and you're rocking a piece of paper for our outline. So don't even go there.
Right. But you've got the iPad and you're my co-host, so
That's true.
And I got the phone. I switched over to the iPhone now after
There
having
you
a
go.
flip phone for years. That's another story.
That's a really long story.
So
Okay, proceed.
thank you. So we're doing this podcast. Me and Jay, we basically love music. But before we get into that, it's important to know our history with one another. Now, Jay, where would you start with explaining to people how we know each other?
Besides sexually, I mean, no.
Let's warm them up first before we get
Okay.
into that part.
So basically, Michael and I,
You can't say that because I'm in the Bay Area, dude. So go ahead. Sorry.
I can say whatever I damn well please. We're in America. Okay, anyways, no, Michael and I, we've basically been friends since we were really young. I think we say 5, but I mean, really, if you want to tell the tall tale, which is not a tall tale that implies that it's a lie, but our families knew each other. We're from Versailles, Kentucky, central Kentucky area. And our families knew each other. I think, my grandfather coached your dad in basketball. And, your cousins and uncles and all that stuff. Our families just know each other, but we grew up. We went to elementary school together. Didn't go to middle school together, which is another story, maybe for another podcast. But we played football together, just longtime friends, liked a lot of the same stuff as friends do. And, after, I guess college, we kind of didn't necessarily go our separate ways, but you went to Georgetown College and I went to UK and I went to 3 different colleges, which, again, another story. But, we've just been along for the ride. Now you're in California and I'm here in Kentucky, in our hometown. So
yeah, and I think the cool thing about that is, and me and you mentioned a lot, but just for our online viewers, it's really cool to have a friend that you can just pick up with no matter what happens in life. You just pick up just like normal. And I know me and you, we just pick up and we talk about music just all the time.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a good point. I mean, there's a lot of people and you go long times apart from one another that you see them and it's kind of awkward. It's like starting over again. But I have a handful of friends, and obviously you're one of them, and we'll stop blowing each other soon enough. But I have a small number of friends that I can just go long periods of time without talking to each other, and you talk to them and it's like you talked 5 minutes ago. So. And I guess for the record, because I'm sure if we ever do one of these in the future, he'll be here, but we have another friend who we kind of ran around with. His name is John Ransdell. He's my roommate, right. But he's not here right now. He's actually headed up to Minnesota. So
yes, John Ransdell, hell of a guy. Going ice fishing, actually.
If I was a betting man, I would say that we would be recording this podcast next week or 2 weeks away, and he would be here, and he would come in and interrupt us and say something mildly offensive. So that's beside the point.
Yes. And I do have to give a shout out to John's friend in Minnesota who is visiting, Elijah. Hopefully you'll be listening to this podcast. The thing is, we don't know who's going to be listening to this podcast.
That's okay.
And that's okay. Yeah, well, it's really okay. I guess let me see what I have next on the list here. I guess the reason why we're doing this podcast is because, am I jumping into the next part too much? Let me see here.
Well, no, not really. I think we were going towards. I guess we got started from that conversation we were having on the phone the other day about media and kind of where things are headed. And
Yeah.
you know what I think is funny, just I guess to kind of transition us into this, is the fact that, I mean, I think when we were in high school, you know, I was in a lot of computer classes and stuff like that, but I never knew you, or I never would have guessed this is, you know, this is not a diss. I'm not saying
Right.
Michael, you piece of shit, but, you know, I would have never guessed in a million years that you would have been as involved in technology and media and such that you were in. I mean, obviously we were in a media class together.
Right.
We were in a video production class and stuff like that. And I think that I know, at least for me, and maybe we'll talk on this another time, but that class really opened up a lot of doors. And, but yeah, we were basically talking, I don't know, go ahead and tell them what we were talking about.
Dave Noble's media class. Yeah, that absolutely opened the door for me. Just video editing and all that stuff. But yeah, I mean, basically, I tell people this a lot. I'm out here in Silicon Valley with, you know, technology just booming and stuff. And I like to tell the story of when me and Jay are in high school, and in 2005, we're having a conversation. The iPod had just come out, and it had the pinwheel, and it was still in black and white. That's how old the iPod was. And Jay told me, he was like, in his just blunt matter of fact, he's like, dude, you know Apple has the technology to make this thing a phone. And I was like, huh, you know, I never actually thought about that. And then I was like, okay, you're probably right. And then sure as shit later, yeah, we could say this. It's my it's our radio show. Surely later on.
We're not like overseen by Clear Channel here, okay? I mean, as far as I know, I don't have like a bucket with a bunch of stuff to bang on pots and pans. This isn't Fast Johnny in the morning radio hour. So you say whatever the fuck you want.
Yeah, thanks, man. I appreciate that. But yeah, sure as shit later.
And now we'll hear from the traffic copter.
Yeah, and on that note, that's a good one to plug my computer up so I don't run out of battery.
Something you should have done before you started a podcast.
Well, I have it set up and ready to go, but
okay. I'm sorry, you were talking about
how brilliant you were, and then
my Nostradamus ideologies about the iPhone. So.
Right, but yeah, so I just saw that I was very visionary, and then when it happened, you know, it's just like, whoa, he really was like Babe Ruth calling the shot here. And then just recently, fast forward, we're back here and we're talking about, you know, media, this and that. And I've always wanted to be a TV writer, writing for TV. Well, Jay just really got me to think like, hey, you know, TV, you know, everything's going online. Everything's going to have a web presence. And you just really open up my mind, and you can talk more on this too, but you really open my mind to make the comparison of if I was in the 1920s or 30s and I'm just like, I really want to work for the newspaper. I want to run my own newspaper, see? And then you come along, you're like, dude, it's all going to broadcast TV. There's this thing called TV that's coming up. It's going to blow people's world. And I'm like, well, I really want to be a TV. Well, I really want to run a newspaper, see? And then that's where I think we are now. And that's the big reason for Gilky Way Galaxy Productions. So kudos to you for that.
Yeah, I mean, it's just it's a great time for content makers and producers and just art in general. And, you know, I say art, and when I say art, I mean the broad spectrum of things encompassing music, movies, video games, books, you know, anything, blogs. It's a renaissance, so to speak, of a lot of stuff. And the kind of cool thing is a lot of people are learning how to and not to do things still to this day. I mean, you know, in the grand scheme of things, the internet is such it's in its infancy, I would say. And I mean, you know, but even in its infancy, it's like dog years. You know what I mean? It's like 1
Right.
year is like 7 years. So the internet also makes I don't know, this is kind of a more philosophical question, but it makes
Right.
you think, is society ready for how quickly the internet is pushing us forward? There's studies to say that's not the case. And I don't know. I'm a bit of a happy thinker. So I'd like to think everything, that technology advances is for the good of stuff. But I don't know. Kind of went off on a tangent, but
Yeah, well, it's not always for the best. I mean, I don't think people are reflective as much anymore. Louis C.K. talks about bullying, and that's a hot issue. Back in the day when you're bullying, you have to look at somebody's face. Like when you say something mean, you have to see their face, and you have to watch them cry and tear up a little bit and look sad. Well, now you could just text somebody something really mean, and you don't have to see that at all. You don't have to deal with that aspect at all. And I just thought that was a very insightful view on why bullying is such an epidemic today.
well, that's kind of funny. There's two things about that I can pick up on. Is
Yeah.
have you heard the bit? It seems now, which I don't know if this is for humor, but it is a good point. People are so against bullying now. They're all like, oh yeah, we've got to crack down on the bullying. Well, now the bullies are being bullied by the anti-bully people. So I don't know where that joke came from, and I probably did it in injustice, but it is a good point. That's what comedy's great for. But no, I don't know if you had this issue, but one thing that I just, I'm all for equality of all sorts of things, but one thing
this is gonna be great.
One thing that I'm just like not on board with at all, I want my parents and my grandparents to use technology, because at this point, not being able to use a computer in some capacity is almost just as bad as being like the 40-year-old who doesn't have his driver's license. But like the point I'm trying to make is I am so like not scared, but bothered by old people being on the internet. Like, it's my grandfather, bless his heart, I love him to death, but he discovered LinkedIn, which let's be honest, like LinkedIn is great for all intents and purposes, but LinkedIn is by far the bastard child of social media. I mean, it's to a certain extent, but he has sent me, I created a LinkedIn account.
Sorry, LinkedIn. They're down the road. Sorry.
I created a LinkedIn account, and then literally 5 minutes later, I was like, I'm never going to go on here again. This is bullshit. It's stupid. But he's gotten on it in the last probably week, and he has sent me like 5 or 6 reminders of, hey, add me on LinkedIn. I'm just like, oh my God. And just, it is funny because when I first started getting on social media and social networking and whatnot, which is weird in itself, because I feel like at some point it was called social networking, and then all of a sudden everybody started calling it social media. I don't know, whatever you want to call it. But I was so open, like I had no no filter. I was saying whatever I want, doing whatever I want. I had my own persona of being online, not my own persona, so to speak, but I just didn't give a shit about what anybody cared about what I said. And then like my family and people I knew that weren't my close friends got on Facebook, and I was like having to censor myself like a lot more. I couldn't say what I wanted to say. If I wanted to post about a band that I liked, I was like, oh, what if these people don't, like this music, and I lose street cred or whatever. And which I think is what Twitter is a little bit better for the sole fact that it's such short snippets of what you can say and do. And it kind of, I think Twitter kind of filters out people that don't really get social media. I might be overstepping my boundaries by saying that, but I feel like Twitter is like, the people that think it's stupid probably don't belong there anyways. Does that make sense? I don't know if I'm.
Yeah. Well, one of my friends said, like, the cool thing about Twitter is you can interact with celebrities on there. And I'm like, yeah, I mean, you actually can to a certain degree. You don't know if it's a fake celebrity or if it's their assistant doing it, but
they have ghostwriters, yeah.
Yeah. What is it called?
Ghostwriters, just famous people that have biographies written for them. They don't really, or I'm sorry, famous people that write biographies or autobiographies.
Right.
Nine out of 10 times, they're usually not writing it. They have a ghostwriter. They sit down with a writer, tell what they want them to say, and the ghostwriter puts it down on paper for them.
Gotcha. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Definitely feel that way. I can really relate to you with that on Facebook because whenever you make a comment, it's like you never know when you're going to stir up the bee's nest on there.
Oh yeah.
It's just like, you got, who's really looking at this and this and that, and we just get into privacy issues. And to dovetail off something else you said, the internet is so new, like you were talking about with social media. Like it's so new that we're inventing language to describe things.
Oh yeah.
Like HTML didn't exist a century ago, maybe even 50 years ago. I'm not sure. It might have in its early phases. But, yeah, right. As long as I wear a sweater vest to just act confident and pretend I know what I'm talking about. But
well, I think one thing, I don't mean to cut you off.
No,
but one thing that I think probably we should talk to people about, I guess, is our background in technology and whatnot. Because, I mean, let's be honest, we could go on the technology and where it's going and stuff for many podcasts to come. But I think it might be good to, I don't know, why don't you tell them about your background in technology and, I mean, your interest in it and what you have to do with it?
Yeah, I guess my background in technology is, I tell this a lot to people that I work with, but kind of me and Jay's generation, we grew up with floppy disks when we were in kindergarten. And we saw, and even typewriters. Like we used in my kindergarten class, we used a typewriter. And we typed on a typewriter. We had floppy disks. And then that went to hard drives, to smaller personal computers, to the point where Apple didn't even, they weren't even a major player for a while, to the whole revolution of music and iTunes and downloading songs and basically the internet just coming into existence. Like in fourth grade, when it's like one kid in our class is like, "Oh, you got to type in http://www," and it's like new. Like this is how we're learning, like how to do this. So then basically, fast forward to Dave Noble's class, and just learned a lot. We got a Mac G5 our senior year, a Mac G5 with Final Cut Pro, learned a lot about editing, and fast forward to now, and now I'm teaching video editing, at a university level in some cases. So it's really been a great experience for me. Worked IT for a little while, but just I've always had an interest in tinkering with technology. And basically how I learned was the same when I was 3 years old. If I wanted to watch a movie, then I learned how to program the VCR and put in the movie. And guess what? If the movie doesn't play, then I keep trying until it works.
That's a really important thing that you just touched on. I think more than anything, I have this conversation a lot with people that I know about our generation, and even I even see it like a tail off with people that are younger than us, not like immediately younger than us, but a little bit younger than us.
And I'm 27 and Jay's 26.
Yeah, but we graduated together and whatnot. But anyways, so our generation, I mean, obviously computers are around in one way or another before we were, before we were young and we were born, but they first really became a household item for a lot of homes when we were really young. And the thing that I have to explain to people all the time is they were new to everybody. It wasn't just to us as kids, but us as parents. We couldn't look at our parents and say, Daddy, how do I use this? It was, we were all learning it together. Yeah. So I think to us as kids, it was more fascinating, whereas to our parents, it was kind of this, in some way, it was like a work aid or almost like a novelty item, so to speak. But, we were sitting there having to learn how to do everything. I mean, everything from, I remember, as Michael was saying, we had a computer in our third grade classroom, and we didn't give a shit what that motherfucker did. All we wanted to do was get on there and pull up WWF, like the websites. I mean, it would load like here, here, and here, and here. But as long as you got to see something, I don't know what it was, Bret Hart or something's.
Who's joining the Wolfpack next?
Yeah.
You know.
As long as I got to see Bret Hart's stringy, wet, Jerry curl-like hair, I didn't really care what it was. But anyways, so we had to learn all that stuff like on our own, and I think that kind of carries over into what we do today. You know, if there's a new program out or if there's something that we want to do, I can't speak for you, but I know if there's something that I want to learn how to do, I know that all I have to do is get on the internet and learn how to do it. And that's just nature to me. Whereas I see a lot of, like, my cousin who's 10 years younger than me and is in high school, she would come to me with technology and say, hey, will you show me how to, or not even will you show me how to do this? Will you do this for me? You know, will you download this app? Will you put music onto my iPod? And I'm just like, no, you need to learn how to do it yourself. And I mean, that's honestly how I got into what I do now. I'm a graphic designer. And
a damn good one, I may add.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Which, speaking of which, I realized before I came on here, I was trying to think about how long I've been doing graphic design. Now, I started in 2004 when I was a junior in high school. That's when I first, started working in Photoshop and stuff. That's 10 years. So that's pretty crazy just to think about. But, but no, I remember the first day that I opened up Photoshop to do something, and I had no idea. I didn't even know how to make a new document. Like, I had no idea.
Wow.
I was so blown away and intimidated by it, and it was such a crazy program. But I kept at it, and I kept trying until I got it right. But I think that speaks a lot to our generation, just having to kind of just figure it out. But I don't know. I didn't mean to cut you off with your story.
No. I even forgot where I was going with that. But, like, even with Google wasn't even around when we were in third grade.
Yeah.
Like, if you think about that, how crazy that is. Like, if you think of innovation and how innovative of an idea it is of the internet, then it's amazing by itself. But then if you think of, there's all this content on the internet, I want to organize all that information. I want to make a search engine better. I want to make keywords, this, that, everything. It's very revolutionary.
I'll tell you one thing that kind of bums me out the more as time goes on, and there's some pimple-faced kid sitting in his garage making this app that sells for $3 million. I always think or even more than that, $3 million is nothing. I'm talking hundreds of millions of dollars. I think, damn it, why couldn't I have figured that out first? But not to be too looking at somebody through another window. But I don't know. It is interesting. It's crazy. I mean, the internet is crazy, and I think to even say that is people. If somebody's listening to this, they're probably like, "What the fuck are you talking about?" Of course, it's crazy. like no shit. But I don't know. When you really start thinking about this stuff, and when you're having a conversation with somebody 3 hours behind me, behind me in California, you'll know what I'm talking about. So.
Yeah, we're on different, almost, East Coast and Southeast Coast-ish. I never know how to explain it to people. I'm like, well, I'm not the Midwest. Well, I'm not really the South either. I'm not really the East Coast either.
Well, Kentucky was the northernmost state in the South in the Civil War. So. Right, yeah. And there's somebody right now who's probably like, no, that's not true. That's not true.
The historians, we welcome historians to add it in.
Yeah, I really don't care.
Yeah, we're just talking here. So look it up yourself is the point. If you want to know something, look it up. That's why you got the internet.
That's true.
What was I going to say with that? Yeah, but out here in California, I've been out here about a year now, and just a lot of people's views are just it's almost the same as Kentuckians that are just like, oh, yeah, I think everybody in San Francisco Bay Area is gay and liberal and this and that. You get a string of Californians that are like, oh, yeah.
Right.
Same insert Kentucky stereotype. I get this a lot where people say, you don't sound like you're from Kentucky. And I'm just like, well, what, how do you sound like you're from anywhere?
Yeah.
I mean, I kind of get that, but I try to take it to another level.
Yeah.
But I mean, the internet's making the world smaller. That's my thing.
Oh yeah. Well, it's making a world. I mean, yeah, you're right. It's bringing people. It's interconnecting people more than they've ever been interconnected. But it's also broadening our minds in a way that no one's ever seen before. There's an argument for kids in schools that kids can go to school and they're absolutely bored out of their fucking mind because I mean, you're exposed to information at your fingertips. If, like I was saying earlier, if you want to learn about something, it takes 10 seconds to have access to that information to be able to learn about it.
Right.
And I mean, when you're having some old hag sitting, which I shouldn't say that, my girlfriend's a teacher, but when you've got some teachers standing in front of a classroom going chapter by chapter, one chapter a week, it's like, dude, I could have gotten this already right now. I could listen to a podcast on this chapter and been done with it in 2 hours. So I don't know, but I guess we should probably start moving along. But I did want to touch on kind of my background in technology. A lot, obviously, like Michael, I had that media class in high school. And more than anything, I've always been interested in computers and in technology. And to kind of tie it in with music and stuff. I mean, I remember Napster like it was nothing.
Wow.
I remember sitting in my parents' office and downloading Limp Bizkit's Significant Other. Back then it was one song at a time, and on a 56K modem. I mean, even the fact that I could download one song for free, stealing a song for free, I was just like,
sharing.
Shit, this is insane. But no, that I was really interested in computers. I took almost every computer class you could possibly take in high school, but it wasn't until that media class and I tell people this all the time, when I went into the media class, I thought I wanted to do video editing because that was what we were doing. I was having fun doing it. But in hindsight, looking back on it today, being just a straight graphic designer, I think more than anything, what it opened my eyes to was the fact that it wasn't so much I had fun video editing as I had fun working on a computer and creating content on a computer. And that really brought me a lot of fulfillment. But, in terms of other stuff, I've obviously been in graphic design. I'm really involved with technology of all sorts. I've always been kind of a tech nerd. I've had just about every video game system you could possibly imagine.
Yes, including Virtual Boy, Nintendo's Virtual Boy, which I thought was awesome at the time.
It's one of the worst video gaming consoles of all time.
And Jay, just to kind of give them context about how we know each other, why don't you explain to them about Nintendo 64, the video game GoldenEye?
Well, for one way or another, Michael's never really been I don't really ever remember you ever having any video gaming systems as a kid. You just weren't really that into video games, were you?
No, not really. I had a PlayStation I had a Sega Genesis and a PlayStation. Played a few computer games, but I've never been a big gamer. So
yeah, he never really was I think he kind of just leaned on me. They were like, well, Jay's got everything. He's got the fucking Sega, Super Nintendo, all that shit. And he would come over to my house, and I mean, GoldenEye was the shit back in the day.
Yeah, I loved GoldenEye.
We'd play it. I mean, we'd play it, but that was all he wanted to play, and that was every fucking time he came over. He was just played at GoldenEye, and it wasn't even like he was any good. I remember I used to smash you every single because I don't remember what the level was, but there was this level where it was basically like whoever could get to that rocket launcher on that ramp the first, and you could camp in this one corner because the only way to get to me was either to come down that ramp where I could just blast you with a rocket, or you came around a corner where I could blast you with a rocket. And if I ran out, I would just wait for the rockets to respawn and go and pick them up. Well, he wanted to play this damn game so much, and it annoyed the shit out of me. That's all he would want to do. And I have to be like, no. That even though I loved it, I loved the game, I took it and I fucking sold it. I sold the game to some video game shop. And he came over one day and was like, oh, GoldenEye? And I was like, I sold that bitch. I was like, that thing's gone. He was just tore up. So
it's one of the few times I shed a tear.
Yeah.
But yeah, for our younger audience, GoldenEye is like, I think Halo stole that. They stole a lot of stuff. Well, borrowed, whatever you want to say. Not necessarily legally or binding or whatever. we're not on Clear Channel, like you said.
Well, I mean,
I'm afraid to say stole. It's very similar to how Halo is.
It's the first-person shooter, and I mean,
yeah, there we go.
It's a first-person shooter video game, and at the time, it was like the pinnacle first-person shooter, and even I mean, Halo is a great game, but even Halo is a little not necessarily dated, but I mean, there's definitely competitors for that crown. There's Call of Duty and all that stuff. So,
yeah, I learned from my students. COD, they call it COD, Call of Duty. So, yeah. Hand of COD.
Yeah, but I mean, I guess we should.
Yeah.
Segue into some music stuff. So, real quick,
sure.
I thought about this when we talked about us doing this podcast. One of the cool things about Michael and I is that while we're best friends and we're very similar to each other, we also come from different places on a lot of things, but we always talk about those things, and it's cool to bounce ideas off of each other. And one thing that's definitely very that one thing that's very indicative of is music. I mean, Michael is kind of more of a hip hop and rap guy, and pop music all the way back to like old soul music and stuff like that. Whereas I completely went kind of off in a different direction. I listen to a lot of independent music, underground music, like metal, hardcore stuff. I've always been into really kind of just different types of music, but I listen to everything. I love pop and hip hop and stuff too. So, I mean, the idea behind this podcast, or one of the main things, was that I recommend a CD for him to listen to and review, and he recommends a CD for me to listen to and review, and we kind of just give each other's opinions on the stuff. And for at least definitely for this first one, they're not necessarily opposite ends of the spectrum, but they're definitely two different worlds. I can say that your record was something that it's not necessarily something I wouldn't listen to, but it's something that I wouldn't have gone out and looked for, and I think I can say the same for my release. But
yeah, definitely. We just both have, and I guess the common thread that we both have is we both have such an appreciation for music. Jay was in several different bands, and just he's worked with music producers and studios, and honestly, I just learn a lot from him just about recording, digital stuff. I've got more of a classically trained background. I played the tuba for over 10 years. And, wow, sorry, my background is going crazy.
Well, just like, I mean, just to kind of pick up, that's another thing too, is that Michael, you've always, he was in band and stuff and had kind of a classically trained mentality, and was able to pick out stuff like time signatures and, I don't know, key changes, rhythms, just really, really neat things in music that you kind of have to have an education, not necessarily an education. I don't want to paint with a broad brush, but you're probably quicker and more adept to pick up on little intricacies in music than most other people were. And, I guess me, just with having been around musicians and in music and in bands and stuff, I had to learn that as well. So yeah, we definitely complement one another, and we can have a very educated, not trying to sound all high and mighty, but
conversation, discourse.
Yeah, about music in terms of the appreciation for it, and again, those intricacies and fine details and stuff. So.
Yeah, definitely. And to touch on something that you mentioned before, I've got an education background, and one of my favorite educational philosophers is John Dewey. And what I think is cool about him is he's the big dog American education guy. And he breaks down education into two ways. It's a formal education and an informal education. Now, I guess the best way to break that down is informal is kind of like street smarts. Right. And, learning things by doing, hands-on, practical experience, while formal is more like, okay, sit down in a chair, study this book, do this, do that. So, I mean, everybody kind of falls into one of those two categories, and it just really rubs me the wrong way when people say, oh, I'm educated, I'm this, I'm that, I went to this school. And it's just like, you know what, it's what you put into it. Education is what you put into it. And just with the internet, it's like that. What you want, you have access to everything, so it's what you put into it, just like your school. And it's the same way with music. If you want to produce music, me and Jay, we make beats in GarageBand. We talk about music, we talk about bass lines, chord progressions. So I mean, we both love it. And like I said, we have different tastes in music. Jay always fed me, like, he always was down with underground stuff. And I definitely miss that now, of just having that ear to the street of these new bands. So,
yeah, I mean, and that's something that hopefully this podcast will definitely do. I mean, do you want to talk about, I guess, our picks? Did you want to start, or did you want me to start?
Let's talk about crosses first.
Okay. Yeah. So you go here. Let me do a little bit of a backstory on that. Or not a backstory, but some.
I've never heard of crosses before, and I came into this knowing nothing. And Jay really he said, "Dude, you would like this." He knows me, and we'll get into that later. My part.
Yeah. So basically, crosses. Have the actual brace for a time machine, but this is an actual physical copy of the record that I bought. It doesn't have the CD in it. It's in my car, but it's Chino Moreno.
Three crosses.
I'm sorry. Yeah, three crosses. Their name is actually indicated by the three crosses. It's not actually spelled out, but that's.
Are they a Christian band?
They're not a Christian band. No. The band is comprised of Chino Moreno, who is the lead singer of the band Deftones. That's kind of his claim to fame.
Oh, I did not know that.
Yeah, so he's our lead singer, and this guy named Sean Lopez, who is a guitar player for a band called Far, who a lot of people may or may not have heard of. My guess is they probably haven't heard of them. But anyways, so this band has been around for about 3 or 4 years, I believe. This is their first full-length record release. It's on Sumerian Records. But the interesting thing about this is they put out a 5-song EP. I guess it was in 2010 or 2011. And those 5 songs that were on that EP are on the CD. So in the following year, they put out their second EP. 5 of those songs on that second EP are on this CD. So 10 of the 15 songs are 2 years old. So everybody was waiting for the third EP, 5 more songs. But instead of doing another EP, they just said, we'll just take the 10 songs we already have and the 5 new songs that we have, and we'll put them on a 15-song release. So some of the songs on here, a lot of people have heard before. I'd heard of these songs for a long time. I'm a big Deftones fan. A lot of people, I think, when this project first dropped, they thought that it was going to be kind of more along the lines of the Deftones, which if Michael, I don't know how familiar you are with them, but they kind of started out as kind of in the whole nu metal genre, but they really progressed over the years, and they're kind of more of a post-hardcore band. And I don't know, they're a very broad band in terms of what they're like, but
yeah, I made a note about the lead singer's voice in one of these songs on there that I'd like to touch on later. Because I didn't know that about the Deftones that it was the lead singer, because I couldn't put my finger on it. He kind of sounded like the lead singer of Buckcherry or Sonny from POD, or even I thought Chris Carrabba from Dashboard Confessional at times on the song. I think it's Option. Is that a song name? Yeah, on Option. It really had a Dashboard Confessional feel, like lead singer feel.
It's interesting that you say that, just for the sole fact of kind of the whole paradox that Deftones, I'll just say that Deftones has been in. They were put in this nu metal box because when they came out, they kind of had that feel. But one thing that's always been, and I didn't, when they first came out, I'll admit I was not a Deftones fan, because Deftones, I don't know, I was kind of coming out of the whole nu metal thing when I was in 6th grade, and and I just wasn't really about it. I didn't really get them. They sounded a lot different. Their big song, which is a song called "Change in the House of Flies," at that time, that was their biggest song. It's probably their biggest song to date. But it was just way different than anything that I had ever heard from a quote-unquote new metal band. So I kind of wrote them off until about maybe a year or two ago, and I actually gave them way more of a chance. And I was like, man, this isn't new metal at all. This sounds way more like the stuff that I like. So they never really fit into that box. But you're right. They definitely have a very Chino has a very diverse voice. And I'm sure we'll talk more about that. But yeah, what did you think about just, I don't know, go ahead and go through your review. Tell me what you thought about it.
Yeah, I thought it was very interesting. The song called "This Is a Trick."
Mm-hmm.
A note that I wrote down was it has an interesting beat to it. Like, it's very interesting. The next song, "Option," it opens up and it could be a techno song. It opens up and I'm like, wow, this sounds like a techno song. But then it shifts to rock. It shifts suddenly to rock. So I really liked that kind of diversity that you kind of see in country music with like a Shania Twain, for example, of where it starts out kind of country feel, twang to it, kind of like a Hank Williams Jr. feel or something like that. And then it breaks into like a pop rock chorus.
It's that crossover type of music where it's like it's country music at its core, but it's trying to appeal to a much broader audience.
Right. Yeah. So I think it had that to it. Let me see. I made a note on the song "Bermuda Locket." Just the lyrics. I didn't really pay too much attention to the lyrics on the first one, although I'm sure they're brilliant. But the Bermuda Locket one, the singer says, "I want to view the signal that unlocks your brain." And I'm just thinking, I'm just like, because it's kind of in a love story type of song. And I'm just like, how beautiful is that to get to know somebody that you know a signal that unlocks their brain, to get to know somebody on that level. And I think that's kind of a technological reference too, because you have to know HTML to know about internet or all these tools to learn about technology and stuff. So I thought that was a beautiful lyric there. I'll just go through the rest of my notes, Jay, and you can kind of spin off what you want. So I thought that was really cool off of Bermuda Locket. The next one, "Holy Ghost," the song. It has kind of a creepy alien feel to it / Halloween. It's definitely very interesting, though. I'd suggest you guys to listen to it.
Let me just step in here real quick. One thing that I want to point out more than anything, and I wrote this multiple times in my notes, but one of the biggest things about this band, I think they're trying to get across, and you've touched on it a lot of times, and it's made me chuckle because this whole project that we're doing I think is really cool because having you being an outsider looking in and kind of not being able to know the backstory of the band.
Right. Yeah. I have no idea.
Yeah. It's interesting to me. And because everything that you've said just now are the things that I think makes this band not necessarily important, but interesting that people need to know. More than anything, more than making the music, writing the songs, doing the lyrics, this song or this band is so much about the vibe that they create. That creepy vibe, the kind of eerie and dark. I mean, it's a very dark record. Like it's there's a lot of choruses and hooks and stuff, and there's a lot of beats that can make you move and dance, but at the surface, it's all very weird. It's all very dark. It's just dark and almost unsettling.
Well, I'm going to jump in there because that goes along with my last note.
Yeah.
The song "Cross," or it's a symbol cross.
Yeah.
I wrote down, and it's funny that you mentioned that. We haven't traded notes beforehand. This is all we're just going off the cuff, talking about music. Gilky Way Galaxy Productions. Jay Williams, Anchor Media, hell of a graphic designer. Get our plugs in there. I wrote "Ominous Feel."
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you guys can see that, but I wrote "Ominous Feel," and then chimes come in, Now, chimes are usually happy, unless it's like a church where it's more like solemn feel. Don't, you know. But this is chimes. Chimes are happy. It's like, oh, the
Right.
wind is blowing. It's happy. But they distorted the track on the chimes,
Oh yeah.
which adds more to that ominous nature. Is when you take something that's normally used in a happy way and you just turn that tone on its head.
Mm-hmm.
It just makes it more ominous. Just going into that feel that you said that the artists were trying to create.
Yeah. So I take that's the end of your review, but I've got to ask you because
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
let me say this. When I used to review CDs back in the day, I always gave them a score or grade. I go by a grading system like you would in a school, which how fitting, you know, A, B, C, D, A plus, B minus, whatever. What would you give this record in terms of a grade?
Interesting.
I don't mean to put you on the spot, but
Yeah, no, it's good. It's good. I listened to this. I would give them, because you always come into something with expectations, and with them, I'm gonna give.
Hurt my feelings.
I'm gonna give them a solid C as
Okay,
average.
fair enough.
Solid C. And with that, I'd like to preface this by saying Kanye West College Dropout album.
Yeah.
When it first came out back in 2005, and really with a lot of his music, I would give his music an F. Kanye's music, we won't get into his quotes and interviews. That's a different story. But Kanye, I would give him an F for his music back in 2005. Now, though, when I go back and listen to it, and I don't have any preconceived notions about what it is and things like that, I would give it an A+, because it's so different than any other music at the time. Like it wasn't like Twista or you know, Ray J or whoever was popular at the time with that same canned sound. It was a different experience.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
So with that said, I think that applies to the Crosses album. It's just like, hey, you know, I could come back later and give them a higher grade.
I made this point to you the other night when we were talking on the phone that, you know, I think music reviews and stuff are great. But one thing that I've always known is that if you listen to something first time and you based your entire judgment of that music based on the first, not even the first, second, third, fourth time, let's say the first month that you listen to it, then man, I can't tell you how much music that I would have written off. So,
right.
But yeah, that goes without saying, but I'll move on to, I guess, some of my thoughts on the record, but now know that this was a really anticipated record for me. I pre-ordered it on vinyl. And I'll tell you guys kind of the backstory of ordering this on vinyl. I collect vinyl records. I pre-ordered the white version of the record. There's a white and a charcoal version. And I got an email about a week before the record actually dropped. Now, mind you, I'd had 10 of these 15 songs, so it wasn't like I was waiting on anything in particular, but I was still anxious for it.
Wait, I have to stop you there. Did they actually call it charcoal, or is it – it's
charcoal.
Black?
Well, it's like an off black. It's charcoal. It's not black. But
I was just wondering if they were dodging a racial situation there. Okay, but, sorry. Proceed.
It's okay. But so I get this email saying that there was a problem in the production of the white album, and it wasn't going to get shipped to me on time. So to make up for it, they were going to give me the CD. They were going to give me a download code for the CD 2 weeks early. And I was like, well, shit, okay. That's fucking awesome. And then they were like, in addition to that, you can also pick of one of these three options. And option one was like, what was it? It was like, get a physical copy of the CD in addition to us still sending you the record. I was like, okay, that sounds pretty cool. I wasn't going to get a physical copy of the CD. I was just going to get the record. 2 was we can ship you the charcoal one. And 3 was we could just refund you your money. Well, I chose to get the physical CD because that was something extra. And like I said, I got it right here. When I got this CD, I opened it up and it had like 2 stickers with it it had another download code. So now I have 2 download codes, and I'm going to get a download code with the vinyl. So I'll have pretty much 4 of these records. But anyways, I was really anticipating this record. It was the first record of the year that I was really highly anticipating. Even though I had, 2/3 of the record already, I was still really excited about it, mainly because, and this is, kind of goes into the first part of my review, more than anything, I was really excited to hear how they were going to take 10 songs that they already had and put them into a 15-song record. You know what I mean? One thing that I look at more than anything in records that I listen to is how the CD is arranged. The first song of a CD is the most important song on the record. I don't care what the last song is. I don't care what the singles are. I don't care about that. But that first song is your first attempt at not only blowing the listener away, but setting the tone for the entire record.
I was going to say exactly that, a tone setting.
And I mean, just to give you a good example, we talked about Kanye, but on his Yeezus record, I mean, on site, I cannot tell you how good of a first track that is. When it comes in with that distorted, that wow, and it's almost unlistenable. It's so distorted. Like, I was like, holy shit, I'm in for a ride now. And I couldn't have been more in for a ride on that record because it's something completely different that he's never done. Anyways, going into this record, off the bat, I was completely and utterly disappointed because when I got the download code, when I reviewed the CD, the first track on this record was, hang on, I'll tell you. It was a song called Telepathy.
Okay.
And that song is not a first track. It is the antithesis of a first track. It's slow. It's a good song, but it's too slow. It's too down tempo. But when I got the record, the actual print, the first song is "This Is a Trick," which is a great first track. So I had to completely scratch that note. But
do you think they did that on purpose to switch because it's kind of like "This Is a Trick," like that they're playing on you as the
No, and just a backstory on that song is if I'm not mistaken, I think that's the first song that they wrote, and that's actually the only Crosses song I can think of that's even remotely close to what Deftones ever was. I think that's what people expected of them. It was actually the first track on their first EP. It's a great first song. It's really energetic. It's got a great beat to it, and it's a really almost more of a rock song than I think an electronic song. And that's another thing I should touch on. In terms of genre, Crosses is kind of hard to nail down in terms of genre. I think at their very core, they're a rock band.
Nailing the Cross.
They're a rock band. They're an alternative rock band, but it's completely the foundation of the music is electronic music. I mean, it's electronic beats. There's some dance beats, there's some hip hop beats, there's some house beats, but it's kind of layered over top of some bass and guitar and obviously the vocals. But anyways, I love Chino's voice. I think his voice is incredible. I think he puts so much focus on delivery and how he delivers his vocals, sometimes to like really attack it on choruses. Like in This Is a Trick, the opening track, the chorus is like attacked. I mean, he's singing full out, but the verses are all more mellowed down, and he's really good about that. And also his melodies are really, really finely tuned, really perfected. The one thing I will say about this album as a whole, and this has gone across, no pun intended, Deftones records in general.
Yeah.
For as much focus and fine-tuning as he puts on his melodies and his delivery, he's never been the greatest lyricist in the world. And in fact, I've heard interviews where he says he doesn't even put a lot of thought into his lyrics at all. He just kind of writes it down, whatever goes with the melody. But
one lyric I thought was clever, which I was a fan of The Office a little bit after you. We were both fans of The Office with That's What She Said. But one line was, "I want to come inside you and haunt you."
Yeah.
And I'm just like, really? That's really a lyric that you want to go for. But right. I agree. The beats, if you like the beats and the feels of music, I mean, it's worth listening to.
Yeah. And that's just to continue, another big criticism I have of this record is there are some great high points in this record. I mean, songs like This Is a Trick, Bermuda Locket, which also, just to give you an idea, the 5 brand new songs that nobody had ever heard from on this were Bitches Brew, the Epilogue, I think 1994. No, I'm sorry. Hang on. Bitches Brew, the Epilogue, Death Bell, Black Stallion, and I think 1994. But Bitches Brew and the Epilogue were their 2 lead singles off of this. And when I heard those songs, I was like, holy fucking shit. If this is the next step of Crosses, I'm going to be blown away. But Bitches Brew and the Epilogue, great tracks, the best songs that Crosses have ever written, in my opinion. They're kind of a complete mix of everything they've done. But then this Death Bell song and this Black Stallion song that are the new tracks, I mean, that is garbage. I mean, those songs are fucking terrible. Like, I can't stand those songs. I don't know, like, but to make my point, there's some big high points on this album, but then there's some low points too, where I'm just like, I can't name the low points off the top of my head because they're just not memorable. But
well, I will have to say, to jump in on the experience end of it, me and Jay like to do this a lot. I'll listen to an album beginning to end. I'm about the experience of it. I'd have to say that I was very weak on this album, was creating an experience.
I agree with
something.
That.
So
this is a great album to throw all 15 songs in a playlist of over 100 songs. And, you know, when you come across a song, it's great. But I can't tell you how many times I've tried to sit down and hit play on this record and listen the whole way through. And I can't get over that hump. I end up wanting to switch it off. But not to take it away from the fact that there are some really, really fucking good songs. Yeah,
they're doing original stuff. You got to hand it to them.
Yeah. There's great songs on here. But and just to touch on some of the intricacies, there are some songs on this record that have some of the sickest bass lines like I've ever heard. Like,
what's the song?
Telepathy. The song Telepathy. It has this bass line that just goes through the beginning. And it starts out kind of with this do-do-do-do, 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 it's just like rhythm to it, just so infectious, and I love it. But, just to kind of wrap it up, that I love the feel that I was talking about of this album, the feel, the vibe, the darkness that they're going for. I mean, I love all of that about it. And the last note in my notes, I said, if I could take the best songs in this record and the worst songs and completely break them apart, basically make a playlist of their best songs, I came out with about 8 good tracks. So that's solid. For any CD to have 8 good songs. But when you take those out, I mean, the record is just so much better. So if I can make a recommendation, if you pick this record up, find the songs that you like, make a playlist of just those songs, and maybe just delete the rest of them. I mean, I know that sounds kind of blasphemous coming from such a big music lover, but it's just, again, high points and really, really low points. Some really memorable and some really forgettable tracks. But I give it a B-. I was really looking forward to this record. A lot of these songs I've heard before.
Yeah.
And, that's just how it is with me. Definitely give Crosses a shot. More than anything, it makes me anxious to hear more of what they're going to do. And I really like the idea behind what this band is trying to do, taking electronic technological based music and kind of adding them with the whole, being in a rock band and stuff too. I think that's really cool. So that's it for my Crosses.
Cool. Well, thanks, Jay. I enjoyed listening to it. And I'm
no problem, Michael.
Yeah. And I'm definitely going to go back and listen to, the bass line in Telepathy, I believe.
Yeah, definitely.
As a tuba player. To kind of jump into our next album, Childish Gambino, who some people know as Donald Glover. And if you don't recognize that name, no relation to Danny Glover of Lethal Weapon. But he's a writer started out for actually, believe it or not, The Daily Show with Jon Stewart. Worked his way up to 30 Rock and worked with Tina Fey of Saturday Night Live, of course. And then later on got a guest spot on the TV show Community on NBC, which he's no longer a part of. I could dive off into a different direction with that. But just, a TV writer, makes his own music, and also has a stand-up comedy special on Comedy Central. So this guy is really he's really a renaissance man. And one of his lyrics is, "I'm not going to stop rapping until people say that James Franco is the white Donald Glover." So I think that really just sums up his kind of just his mentality there. Right. And just to kind of give my quick view on it, I love this record. I'm not gonna lie, I could listen to it from beginning to end. It creates an experience. It's called Camp. It's just really great about creating an experience, and it's just so real too. Like I feel like I know him after listening to this album, and I really feel like he's honest and he's got a different voice to offer to rap music. And one thing I'd like to know, Jay, when you talk about it, is I know a lot about rap and the history of rap and this and that, and all the way back to Grandmaster Flash and all those guys coming up. And Donald Glover never really had exposure to that.
Right.
He didn't really grow up listening to rap music. So for him to come up and do it so well like he did, I'm just amazed by that. So, yeah. So I guess that's kind of my short introduction to it / opinion or whatever you want to call it. Yeah. Jay, what do you think? What are your thoughts?
Just initially, I mean, you touched on a lot of the big high points for him. I love one thing that I think hip hop music and rap music is littered with, which is, it's fine because hip hop and rap, more than just music, it's a culture. It's a way of life pretty much. It's this it comes off as a lot of people that don't really pay enough attention to it as this level of arrogance, when that's not really what it's about. I mean, hip hop and rap is about beating your chest because of everything that genre and the people that make up that genre, kind of what they had to strive to achieve. You know what I mean? Rap, for all intents and purposes, is an extremely young genre, but Childish Gambino. I don't know if I'm supposed to call him Childish Gambino or if I'm supposed to call him Donald Glover, but
oh yeah, he got the name, the background behind his name. For those that don't know, he put his name in a Wu-Tang simulator, where you go to this website, you put your real name in a search engine thing, and then it pops out this Wu-Tang Clan name simulator. So that's how I got it.
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like I know him personally, and I don't. I feel like we would be friends, but I'd call him Donald.
Yeah. Well, regardless,
yeah.
That whole ideology and that way of life that rap and hip hop kind of brings to the forefront of things. He kind of works on an opposite level. I mean, he's a very much, I would consider him an alternative rapper, at least in terms of his message, his delivery, the way he comes across. I mean, I think musically and kind of the way his music is packaged is as accessible as just about any rapper you can name. I mean, he definitely does some stuff that's off the cuff. There's a very high level of Kanye influence on this record. I mean,
yeah,
without a doubt. Mainly in terms of beats. That's just about it, though. I mean, the production and whatnot, which he probably didn't have as much to do with, but I love his honesty. I love he's unashamed to talk about where he came from. In a way, I think that helps him with his individuality as an artist, but I also think, at least on this record, which I'll touch on a little bit, I think it kind of hurt him. But just to start on the actual record itself, I like his kind of references to odd things and counterculture and whatnot.
Right.
I kind of saw some of your notes, but You mentioned there's like a Rugrats reference, but one that made me laugh and chuckle was there's a reference to Sufjan Stevens, who is kind of a really big indie rock act back when I was first started in college around 2006. Just subtle stuff like that really is a pleasure to kind of hear.
Yeah,
rap music. It's almost like a Where's Waldo book of kind of not really a Where's Waldo book, but like more like an I Spy book of just interesting references. He'll say stuff sometimes like, oh yeah, it's like it's got that factor to it. But in terms of his flow, he does have a very interesting and different flow. I would say one thing I would say that I didn't really expect listening to it, but I would say it's probably an acquired taste. It's not like a traditional hip hop flow or traditional rap flow, which is good, but it's definitely probably an acquired taste.
And to add in there while you're reading your notes, I've probably listened to this album at least 10 times beginning to end.
Yeah.
I've just listened to it so much. It's one of those pieces of music that, or pieces of work really that moved me a bunch and just was there for me. Like music is kind of there for you at times. That's the beauty of it when nothing else can be. And this album was there for me. So I agree with the acquired taste.
Yeah. So the actual, the overall kind of grand scheme of things, I support it. I'm gung-ho, go for it. Now, when we get into the nuts and bolts thing, the first song that really stood out for me was Bonfire. The beat, it's a great beat, but it literally sounds exactly like it came off Dark and Twisted Fantasy from Kanye. I mean, it is which is not a bad thing, but it's just like, it's like, dude, this is like, I mean, it sounds like Power. I mean, it sounds like if there was a sequel to the song Power by Kanye West, it would have been the song, at least beat-wise, in terms of the actual music.
Oh, I mean, this song just hits you in the teeth. It's just so hard and just...
Yeah, it's definitely, it's heavy. It's heavy for a hip-hop song, that's for sure.
Yeah, and the music video for it, you should check it out, too. It's very interesting. It's very indie feel to it.
So at this point, I'm listening to the record. I'm at Bonfire. I've gone through a few tracks, and at this point, I'm kind of like I don't mind where it's going, but I'd like to see some diversity. And just to kind of retrospectively look at that, this album, it does have a lot of diversity. I mean, the guy can rap. He's got some singing. I wish he would embrace his singing a little bit more. Sometimes he'll have like a 90% song or a song where he's rapping 90% of the time and break off into the same part, and it's like, ooh, I like that, but I kind of want more. And you get more on the record, but I guess I don't really know where I'm going with that, but it is nice.
I'm gonna jump in there with that because I saw an interview with him recently where he talks about him not liking his rap voice. He thinks it's too high of a register. And I just completely disagree with him there. I wish he had more confidence in his rap voice, and instead, because he's not a Rick Ross. If everybody was like Biggie and Rick Ross with that, rapping real deep with he's got that mid-register voice that's just super nice, and his singing voice, like you said, I mean, I love his singing voice. I wish I could sing like that. Yeah. I wish he would do it more, and kind of in his later albums, he kind of gets away from that, and I just think Camp really just shows how well he can sing. So.
Yeah, I agree. There's and also at this point, I made a note of, it seems like in his raps and in his flow, he's like trying to go hard all the time. It's like every line he's trying to deliver, like, you know how in some rap songs it's like it's a build up until you're about ready to go real fucking hard. But he's like trying to go real fucking hard all the time. And I'm almost wondering, like, maybe that was kind of a first record mistake. Not necessarily a mistake, but like a first record characteristic. Sometimes you got to know when to pull it back and kind of go a little more softer. But anyways, so I'm still listening to the record. And then I hear the song All the Shine, which, if I'm not mistaken, is All the Shine a longer track or a shorter track on it? Do you know?
Let me check my notes here. I think it's a little bit longer. I can't remember if that's the one with the memoir at the end.
I'm not sure, but the song All the Shine, I really liked it. It was this is where diversity stepped in, and maybe that's why it stood out so much to me when I was listening to the record.
It's regular length. Okay.
It was a really diverse song. It had this real slow kind of drony synth that I thought was really nice, a great hook to it. And then the song right after it, I think it was right after it, it was called Love Letter Home, another really, really good song.
Yeah.
I love the diversity in that song. And I like when rap albums have these little sprinkles of switch ups, when it's just like I like this record where it's going, and then you switch it and it's like, ooh, I really like this too. Kind of keeps you guessing. And then the song Heartbeat, there's like this distorted synth on it, and it's so nasty. It sounds good. It makes me feel good.
I've tried to create that before. I'm just like, and the thing about that is making my own beats. We make our own beats and just send it back and forth to each other. But I've tried to create that so much, and whenever I end up trying to create it, I end up making this kick-ass beat that comes out of that, and I'm just like, oh. But I'm always trying to replicate that, and something cool comes out of it. That's all I have to say.
So it's important for me to make this note. Even though All the Shine was probably my favorite track on the record,
right?
Heartbeat was probably my highest point on the record as a whole package. Like, it's something that I thought was just – it was just a big track. It was a really, really good track. But probably my biggest issue with the whole record actually has to do with this narrative that he constantly is talking about. There's this really big issue about his blackness, and about how he doesn't, basically black people are referencing their own stereotypes on him, like he's not acting black enough. He went to a suburban school with rich white kids, and he's made to feel ashamed of that. And it's just like, he talked about it so much, and I love that honesty, and I love that transparency in it, but it was like harping on it over and over and over again, and that kind of bothered me. But I was kind of over it towards probably the middle of the record. But it's cool. I mean, I understand, like, that's something that probably does bother him. It's something that probably does eat at him, the fact that he's a rapper and he can't talk about the hard times. He can't talk about it sounds like he has had hard times. There's some lines in the record to suggest that his parents gave up a lot for him to have this other life, a better life for himself, even though it meant moving out of the ghetto or whatnot. And he didn't have that ghetto persona. Some of the songs run together a bit. There were some times when I was like, wait, have I heard this song already? But,
I agree with that. Yeah. I think that adds to the experience of the overall album.
It probably does. Yeah. Yeah, definitely. And that's pretty much it. Final, just to sum it up, more than anything, like Crosses, I want to see what he does next. I know he has a record after that, and I will listen to that. I didn't want to listen to his latest record to have it shadow kind of what I thought about this one. But I think he's got lots of room to grow. He's obviously got talent, but there's a lot of what other people are doing on this. There's a lot of influence on this, which is fine for your first record. From what he
had another one out before this. He had Cul-de-sac before this, yeah.
That was the mixtape, wasn't it? Was that a mixtape?
I think it was an EP or something like that.
Okay.
It's a full-length album. It's like an hour worth of songs or something.
Yeah. The from what I have heard of his latest record, the little tidbits I've heard.
3005? Or because of the internet, I mean?
Because of the internet. Yeah. There's a lot of, from the little bit that I've heard, there's a lot of growth. There's some weirdness to it. I'm excited to listen to that. I'm excited for him to grow into this individual that he claims to be. When I say that, I mean all these, kind of quirky references he makes, and his different flow, and his, all the stuff that sets him apart. I'm excited for him to kind of grow into that, and not necessarily be like, hey, look how different I am, and just be like, let his music speak for that. Final grade for it, I gave it a C. It's a good record. I can tell that it was kind of it was something that it was kind of like a, hey, look at what I'm doing type of thing, but
Yeah.
in terms of like kind of revealing himself to the world. But yeah, it's definitely worth picking up, and again, I'm really, really excited to see what he can do next. But yeah.
Yeah, and so just to give you a background about his album releases or EPs or whatever you want to call them, Cul-de-sac, and then Camp, this one, and then Royalty. That's where he features people like Blake Griffin, and Tina Fey even comes in on a track and rhymes in Royalty. And
do you like that? Do you like that aspect that his kind of stardom gives him the ability to do that, or do you think it's it's gimmicky? And the only reason I'm asking you is just to get your take on it.
You know, I think, hey, you know, go for it. People asked him about like, oh, hey, do you think you can make the transition from comedy to music? Because, you know, he's a comedy writer, he's got a comedy group, this and that. And he said, yeah. He said, the reason why I can make the transition from comedy to music is because I'm not Will Smith. I'm not Eddie Murphy. Those guys are really good at what they do comedy-wise.
Right.
So it's going to be hard for them to break this image. And even like Drake, he was on Degrassi, but he was still able to break that image because it wasn't hugely popular.
Right.
So I say go for it, Donald Glover. I mean, use what you have to, you know, move you forward and to be where you want to be, you know, with Tina Fey, and, you know, which she does some hella good rhymes on that, and on Royalty at the end. So, yeah. But what I will say with that album growth, which later on for another show, is his first two albums, I could see how he took a lot of things from Cul-de-sac, and then Royalty is different. It's very different than Camp. And then his newest one, because of the internet, it's just different. It's different than anything he's ever done. So.
Yeah, that's what I'm excited to hear about. So here, you give your review on it. I need to go into the other room just for a second. But go ahead and
you got a bathroom break. I understand.
Yeah, but go ahead and start on your review though.
Yeah. So with my review, I just made some notes there, and I just love his lyrics. He references Rugrats. One song he goes into this memoir, this story about when he's on a bus. He's riding a bus, and it's almost like, for you English majors out there, it's like he's written a memoir and they just put music behind it. And what I really like about that is just that it's got a really classical feel to it. If you like classical music, then this is great because it's got a classical feel, it's got hip-hop beats, it's got that to it. And he's very intelligent too. So just to kind of hear him in his own take about his song and his writing style, it's very interesting. I love the way that he writes in his writing style. And along that note, people that love grammar and stuff like that will be able to appreciate this. One lyric is, I had to take my jacket off, third period, ellipses. Ellipses is, you know, for a junkie like me, makes me laugh because that's ... when you're writing is the phrase for that, ellipses. Take your jacket off, third period, play on word, ellipses, ... 3 dots is ellipses. Some other lines that he does is the song Keep Up. He talks about Pete Wentz going both ways, stabbing hoes like OJ. The only thing I put before me is do-re, just a play on those words. And let me see. He spits really fast sometimes. He uses words like lacerate, which is like lacerate hose, and like, you know, just the fact that he's mentioning hose and lacerate in the same line, I think is interesting for a rap artist. The song Sunshine, he mentions, I'm taking over your city like Carmen Sandiego. I'm like, whoa, that's a really good reference to my childhood. Let me see. Oh, yeah, his storytelling. I think he tells really good stories with each song, which kind of makes me like it a lot, is because just the fact that he's able to tell a story and to do it so well, even if he's telling a memoir and he's talking over it.
Right.
I think that's fantastic. Let me see. Yeah, the whole race thing. I actually thought that was a good commentary because, like Eminem grew up in Detroit in the ghetto, and just really had a different life. And I feel like in the rap community, like if we're talking about race and stereotypical, like we said, what does it mean to talk like you're from Kentucky? What does it mean to be white?
Right.
What does it mean to be black? What does it mean to be Hispanic or anything else? Like, what does that mean? Like, I feel like Donald Glover has to fight that because, like Eminem relates, I feel, more with black people, whereas Donald Glover is in this white world where he's with, white TV writers, this and that.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. Yeah.
And grew up in Stone Mountain, Georgia in the deep South, where he said he couldn't swim in someone's pool when he was 8 because he's black. I mean, just the life experiences that he's had and how that's influenced him. I really appreciated that because, I've never had to experience any kind of overt racism like that, of where they're just like, look, you can't swim in this pool. You're a black kid. Just to constantly have somebody be telling you you're different all the time. Another part of my background, I lived in Australia for a year. I was always being told that I'm talking different. So to hear him, that kind of gave me a different direction with it, talking about race. And, it's kind of annoying when people are like, oh, you're different all the time. So while it is annoying to you, Jay, I kind of get where he's coming from with that, just how annoying that is.
Yeah, and just for the record, I mean, I definitely think it's an important narrative to have. I think I like the fact that he said it. I guess more than anything, my critique of it was that it just became a recurring theme, I guess, so much. But that's okay. I mean, it's whatever. That was just my first kind of first glance at it. But.
Yeah, because it is really it does really take over a lot. It's a big theme, I guess, in the work.
Right.
But I'm just gonna read some of his lines because I think his lyrics are great. The music speaks for itself. Let me see. Like the line where he's referencing sex with a girl. I'm inside you, but I can't find you. But the sex wasn't half bad. But the sex that we had wasn't half bad. Okay, so I'm going to say that again. I butchered it. I'm inside you. I can't find you. But the sex that we had wasn't half bad. And he said condom slipped off in a threesome. Good problems? Emphasis on question mark.
Right.
And it's just very interesting because those are things that probably he can only relate to with that celebrity status, is just, women and probably men in some cases just throwing themselves at him all the time. And just says lines like, I'm going straight to the thighs like the cake you ate. And I'm just like, whoa, that's clever right there. I think that goes back to what you said about going hard every time with a line.
Yeah.
Oh, and Backpackers. He says, put it on my black card and max it out. And he's got Kid Cudi on here, and he's talking about co-signing for a house, no co-sign, trigonometry. Like, I feel like that's, kind of a cool line there. It's very, very interesting for sure. I'll just do a few more. Where he's talking about hipsters, and this is where I feel it's got a Kanye lyric type reference where he goes, you ain't living in BK, you ain't working on a screenplay, your baby daddy ain't a DJ, like with just very simple lines, just of like summing up that hipster attitude of New York City that kind of lets that experience just wash over me because, I've never lived in New York, but I feel like I know what it's like after listening to him talk about it. I really appreciated that. Just his intelligence with rhymes and commentary on the race issues. Like one kid said that he wasn't really black because he had a dad, and I'm just like, wow, it's such a shame that people still delve into these stereotypes.
Oh yeah.
Always talking about people's breath stinking because all they do is shit talk. I think that's really clever. And he says, "Holla like your daddy when he's pissed off." We both know that's a great line.
Yeah.
Me and you, Roddy Williams and Pat Gilkison, we know like when your dad's pissed off and he's yelling at you. Whoa, that brings us some memories, you know.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
I love when he comes. I think that's his first line, and he's just like, "Holla, holla like your daddy when he's pissed off." And it's just like you talk about creating a tone in an album. I think creating the tone in a song applies the same way too, of just coming at it hard with the first line. So I mean, overall, this album meant a lot to me because I picked it. So it is an acquired taste, but definitely worth a listen.
What's your grade? What's your final grade?
Final grade is A+ for me. I love this album. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's no two ways about it, and I am biased, so
that's okay.
Yeah. This is one that I really liked a lot. So, and for me, like liking an artist a lot, an artist is going to do different stuff all the time. You can't kind of channel artisticness, and because of the internet is so different than camp, and because it's so different, I'm having a hard time really liking it as much as this one. But that's part of the experience. Change occurs all the time, and get with it or get lost.
Yeah, I mean, you touched on something. I don't mean to go off subject from our views, but
I'm done. Yeah,
but it's funny how you're right. We do, I think, as music fans in general, and I'm explaining everybody, we definitely get attached to artists. There's artists we like, but more than anything, and especially for records that kind of mean something to you a little bit more. Like for this record, I mean, you said it helped you in certain ways, and it means more to you than just a record that you like. You're attached to the record. You know what I mean? You're attached to not just the artist, but you're attached to that record. And that's kind of the same thing with me and one of my all-time favorite bands is a band called Brand New.
Yeah.
They put out a record called Deja Entendu, which really pretty much got me through high school. And that's like a classic record for me. But every record other than that, kind of, for me at least, kind of had to live up to that record. Yeah. And, it was always like, well, this one doesn't mean as much to me because I wasn't going through the same stuff that I was going through when Deja Entendu came out. So it is interesting how there's that dynamic.
Because, I mean, like, people, after a hard day, they'll run and they'll grab a beer to take the edge off, or they'll exercise to take the edge off. But, I mean, I've really went to this album to, like, feel good a lot of times, just like somebody would a drug or something like that. I think that's the power of music, really, is that there's over 2,000 languages spoken in the world. 2,000 over. And music, if you know how to read sheet music, it's universal. And to think of that of anything being so universal like that, of reading music and creating an experience, it just blows my mind. I mean, it's just, I'll put it right up there with the internet about how, like Beethoven, we still have Beethoven's music because it was written down in a universal way. Like, it wasn't written down in Latin or Greek or this or that, but like sheet music.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I just find that amazing about music, about how it can make you feel something and make you relate to something and even make you feel better or feel worse or feel sad or feel happy.
Absolutely. So one thing that I wanted to do towards the end of the podcast and whatnot is talk about what we're going to do next week, because I want people, for whoever's going to listen to this, I thought it would be a good idea to, I'll make my recommendation, you make my recommendation, and then maybe people at home listen to this or watching this, they can listen along with us and kind of do what we're doing as well.
Yeah, maybe make suggestions. Maybe we could take audience.
Yeah, definitely. But if I suggest a record, somebody can listen to it and make their own assumptions and opinions, and just do it with us. Maybe you can set up like an email account or something, and people can send in their thoughts and opinions.
Yeah, and you can always go to GilkyWayGalaxy.com, and there's a way to contact me. And just do that, GilkyWayGalaxy.com, and contact. You can send me a message right away. Because this is such a new platform, or new is relative, but just a way of, media being there, and that we can communicate with people in this way. I'm just excited to see where this is going to go. Like how people listen, how many people listen, how people communicate back with us. Like if we have guests on the show, like you said, we're not censored by Clear Channel. We're not censored by anybody. We can say or do whatever we want. We can go over time limit, and
which we have.
Yeah. And,
the name of the podcast is just a name. It's not representing of how long the show will actually be. But what's that?
Do we even have a name for the podcast yet?
Well, you had named it something, but how about when we put it up, it'll have a name? How about that?
Yeah, we'll do that.
Well, go ahead and make your recommendation. I know we've already talked about it, but maybe you can just talk just a teeny bit about the record too.
Yeah. I'm going to recommend for you to listen to, drumroll, Drake's album, Nothing Was the Same.
Which we've already both listened to and talked extensive about, but we haven't broken it down as much.
We've gotten into a lot of theory about Drake in general, and just his new album and his lyrics and his beats. And Jay, how many hours would you say that we've talked about Drake? And this is across the country, from the Bay Area all the way to Kentucky, Central Kentucky.
It comes up in frequent conversation, but more than anything, it's turned into inside jokes.
Yes.
It's actually my favorite thing to just listen to his record and find like some funny line, because so much of Drake is funny, not just in what he delivers, but the way he delivers it. Funny as in trying to be serious, but it comes off as cheesy and corny. Yeah, but that shouldn't be, at least to me, that shouldn't be a representation of how I feel about the album. So right. It is. He takes himself a little seriously, but that's what I like about Donald Glover / Childish Gambino, is he's just real. He's like, you know what? I'll never be able to be Drake. He said, I don't come hard. I just come me. And I really appreciate that you could just be yourself. Because I feel like something Drake would say. Yeah, but I mean, in a cheesy way. But like Drake, he's got this image to uphold. He's, like, so I'm Drake. I'm this ladies' man, and anytime I spit game to a girl, and I just think he did an interview and just talking about his dating life. Like he's dated Rihanna, Serena Williams, went on a date with Tyra Banks, so many, just all these A-list celebrities. And he's just like, man, it's easy to do a radio show. And he's talking about like an interview with this lady about him in a relationship. And it's just so vague. He's like, I'm looking to build a relationship with somebody. And they're like, so you want a girlfriend? He's like, nah, I didn't say that. I said, I'm looking for somebody that kind of wants to build with me. And I'm just like, wow, you are such a player, Drake. And you have a hard life. Yeah. So my record that I want you to listen to, I actually have it here on vinyl. Vinyl. It's Balancing Composure, The Things We Think We're Missing. It's they're genre-wise, they're a rock band. I mean, it's a broad term, but they're kind of a broad band. They're a rock band. Is that the name of the band, Balance and Composure? Yes, they're from I think Doylestown, Pennsylvania, if I'm not mistaken. I stumbled upon this band by basically surfing Spotify's Somewhere Artist. I have a habit of doing that. Stumbled upon their first record. This is their second record, and I'm not going to go into too much about them, but I stumbled upon them and really just started listening to them a lot. Got a chance to go down and see them in Nashville, kind of impromptu. It was a good show. But yeah, give the record a listen. And one thing for our listeners and for you, more than anything, we talked about different parts of music, and some CDs, the music is better than the vocals, and sometimes the lyrics are better than the vocals and the music. really pay attention to the lyrics, really think about the lyrics, what they mean, where they're coming from, and pay attention to some of the grooves in this band. This band has some incredible grooves.
And what's the album name?
It's called The Things We Think We're Missing.
Ah.
I don't know if I can get the whole thing in the shot, but that's the record.
Okay, I see it in the top right. Yeah, hold the top right up a little closer. I think it's a little too. There we go. The Things We Think We're Missing.
Yeah. Yeah, this CD came out last year, towards the end of last year. I don't want to talk too much about it. I want to leave it to just so you know what the album looks like. Here's the record.
Nice.
White red vinyl.
And yeah, this is all live. I've never heard of this band before. I've never heard of whatever before. So I'm curious to listen to it because to our viewers or listeners, Jay has always brought new music to me. I've just always been so thankful for just having a lot of music just thrown at me all the time. Sometimes whether I want to hear it or not. I know when we always ride in a car together, when we're lucky enough to do that, Jay's always picking out the music and letting me listen to new stuff, or, very much a dictator in the car with his music.
Yes, very much so.
And I like that because I'll listen to the same thing over and over again, Childish Gambino or this or that or this over and over. And Jay's just like, I got to break you out of that, man. Listen to this. Listen. He's kind of like a doctor. He's like, oh, if you like this, then try this. Or you like the bass line here, then listen to this. Blah, blah, blah. We just,
One other thing I might do soon, I know you're not on Spotify, but I might start publishing some Spotify playlists for people. Maybe I'll put them on your blog or something like that, and people can subscribe to my playlists on Spotify and listen to them.
Yeah, I'd love to throw that up there on the website.
What else was I going to say? One more thing about that record. Oh, just whatever you do, it's very important to me that you just pay close attention to this record. It's a record where it's a thinking man's record. Sit down with a nice glass of scotch or wine and listen to it, and it's got some songs you can like kind of headbang to, but it's also got some tunes where you can just groove and be like, shit, this is good.
yeah.
But,
all right.
And for the record too, the vocalist, the singer, I know this for a fact because I've heard him say in interviews, he's a huge hip hop fan, and loves Drake, absolutely loves Drake.
Interesting connection there.
Goes together, but yeah, I've heard him in many interviews talk about how much he really enjoys Drake. So yeah, that's it for my music. Did you want to chit chat about? You have in the outline that you want to close out for 5 to 7 minutes, but we've already gone over. So.
Yeah, the only thing I have to say, this is our first podcast, so be gentle on us. We're gonna tighten this up some, or maybe not. Maybe we're just gonna let it flow and just go balls to the wall with it. I enjoy it. I enjoy it kind of being natural, a little bit organic. Yeah, because we're so in the mood with just our generation now and TV just to be stringent and schedule. We had bells in schools and be here at this time and do this, read this, don't do that. Just so stuck in a schedule. So maybe we'll just be real with it. Who knows? But, I guess to close us out, I'd like to thank my co-host, Jay Williams, as always. Yeah, it's been fun. And, we'll see you next week. Michael Gilkison signing off, Gilky Way Galaxy Productions. Let's see where it goes. Take care. Thanks. Thank you.